So first things first, PJ, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Good to be here.
It's very good to hear. Thank you for taking the time to talk with us. Where I want to start is obviously you grew up around music in and around the church. And now I was wondering, how did that shape kind of the music you make to this day?
Yeah, well, I think soul music is basically like gospel music meeting like love lyrics. So I think as a foundation, church and gospel music would really kept the soul in it for me. You can't really make gospel music without having feeling and without trying to connect. So I think that is something that I take with me no matter what type of music I'm doing. Yeah.
And if you look back at those early days, did you really enjoy the music and everything, or was there a rebellious phase as well where you went into different kind of musical expressions?
Yeah, no, the good thing about our church, I mean, when I was younger, we had freedom to do all kinds of music. I mean, we would put R&B songs to the gospel songs, we do all kinds of stuff. So I really had a good time there. My drummer to this day is still my same drummer that was with me back in those days. So yeah, no, we had a good time and we found a way to make it fun for us.
And did you know from that early of an age that this is what you wanted to do?
Yeah, I knew pretty early. I mean, initially, I just wanted to be a musician for some artists. But then I started to get into songwriting. And then when I got a song, my first song it placed at 15. It was like I got money for it. I was like, oh, wait, I would have done this for free. I can get money and do what I love. And so I knew at a very young age that this was what I wanted to do.
That first song, do you still kind of remember writing it and what feeling it gave you?
That song that I placed, yeah, I remember I was punished. So my dad, I could only read the Bible. So my dad made me read the Bible and I started reading these scriptures and revelations in it. I started to get a song from it. And from that song, I just wanted to hear myself recording it. I didn't know about getting it to other artists yet or anything like that. I just wanted to hear it, record it. And so I did that. And my best friend, I let him hear it and he was like, you should let my brother hear it. And then his brother just had joined this group, this gospel group, and they loved it and recorded it. And the rest is history. Yeah.
But I find that very interesting because what in essence is your philosophy to songwriting then? Are you somebody who kind of works diligently 9 to 5 every day, or is it kind of waiting for divine inspiration in a sense?
Yeah, I'm more on the divine side than the, work every day side. I need space and time to gather my thoughts, to be present. I have so much respect for my friends who write songs every day. I mean, I see it done and great songs. So I know it's possible, but for me, it's just not my process. I like to give it time and give it space and revisit.
Right. And now kind of moving up a little bit, your first solo album, Emotions, came out in 2005. If you look at that period, what were you aiming to do, so to say? Because as you mentioned, the first song was released kind of by accident in a way. So what were you, with that first couple of albums, what were you trying to do in a sense?
Yeah, well, I mean, I really was just trying to express myself. I was trying to make what I thought was my magnum opus. It's like I had never made an album before. And so I wanted to say everything I wanted to say. I wanted to have all the musicians I wanted. I wanted to have, strings. This is the first time I used strings on anything. And it just was an experience. It was like being a kid in a candy store. And, I thought that it was going to sell all around the world and sell millions and millions of records. I didn't really know how the business worked at that point. I was just making what I loved. And I'm still so proud of that album because it's like exactly what I wanted to do at that time, like fully. That was all heart.
Oh, that's good to hear. But you mentioned something interesting as well, that there's one side, which is the creative side, and then you have the business side as well. So was that kind of like a tough pill to swallow early on, that you kind of had to deal with that side of it?
Yeah, it was a rude awakening. I mean, I thought that, I made songs that could stand next to any pop artist or, whatever. I know John Mayer was huge at that time. I thought my songs could sit next to his, but that was a rude awakening. I learned even about race in radio and how they view a black artist versus a white artist. Like if you're black, you immediately looked at as urban or, and then you don't have that opportunity at pop radio and stuff. I didn't know. This is when I didn't know any of that. And it was like a rude awakening of like, okay, all right, let's figure out how to do this. And I started learning more and more. I'm still so appreciative of all of it because I learned so much,
Yeah, and one thing I think you delved into, but maybe you did earlier, I don't know, but the production side of things, is that something you've always been interested in, or did that come with that first album and kind of onwards?
Yeah, they just always were one and the same for me.
Okay.
Like when I wrote the song, I already heard how it was done in my head. Like when I'm writing it, I'm hearing the orchestra, I'm hearing the band, So I guess I was always a producer, right from the jump. It was just me learning how to get my, produce. But it was always there. Even I remember the track I did for that very first track when I was 15. Even they copied some of my mistakes because they didn't realize. And that let me know that I was a producer then, even though I didn't get to produce that one. I was like, okay, next time I know what to do now. I thought I didn't know, but when they gave me the confidence when I heard them produce it just the same way I did. And so I'm like, okay, I got it. And so from that point on, the writing and the production always went hand in hand for me.
Okay. And is that something, do you have a kind of a sound? Did you create a sound for yourself in terms of production, or does that change from album to album?
Yeah, people say that. People say they can tell when it's a PJ song. Maybe there's some element to it that gives me a sound. I never tried to do it on purpose. I think it's the type of stuff I use. I tend to use more vintage equipment, and vintage keyboards and stuff. So maybe there's a sound there. But I think especially like even this new album, I go from Afrobeat to, My Piece, which is totally different, from Please Don't Walk Away. And then you got a reggae song. So I think I'm open to all things, but maybe you could still kind of hear a PJ thing even in all those different genres as well.
That eclectic nature of your approach to music, is that kind of inherently New Orleans? Is it derived from there?
Maybe so. I think the openness of it may be New Orleans. I think it's just me though. I've always been open to anything, any music that moved me. I'm like, that's fine. I don't care. What is it, polka? I don't care if it moved me, And so I just never block off anything, and that allows me to be influenced by all types of music.
Is there one inspiration or source of inspiration that you used for this new album that people might not expect from you?
I think the source of inspiration for me was really digging deeper in this pandemic. The pandemic is the star on this album, really,
sure.
In the sense that it kind of shaped these stories, and it shaped my life as I was, going through these things that I eventually wrote about. And so that's all I needed, was to look around and see what people were dealing with, see what I was dealing with. That was like inspiration enough. It's like, oh man, this is really the time when the gift, needs to be put to use. Like people need words and songs as soundtracks to what we've been going through and how we've been feeling. And so I felt inspired just from that.
Now, I read that as you were kind of initially writing for what would become this album, your laptop crashed and you lost a lot of material. So
yeah,
what was that like? And I can imagine it both being absolutely devastating, but also in a way liberating.
Yeah, it was devastating in the moment for sure. But quickly after, I just had to take a deep breath, like, Yeah, we're really in a pandemic, like this is not going to be the 2 weeks you thought it might be home. Like this is real. And it started to settle in like, okay, what does it look like to just be home and not have plans to be on the road? And I was supposed to be all around the world at that time. And so, but I was then so appreciative that it like stopped me, and allowed me to see life and like, get more time with my family and like just really lock into things that mattered. And it made me a better songwriter because I'm able to do what I tell people to do all the time. It's like live and be present and then you can write. I was just so in it. Things were moving so fast that I was just like, gotta write, let's keep going. And it wasn't until the world like stopped me that I realized, okay, like, you could stop.
Take a breath.
Yeah.
Well, that's a very fascinating side of kind of the business that you're in, because I talk a lot with artists about kind of identity, and this is one of those things where I suppose a lot of musicians, they kind of identify themselves as that musician, as member of this and that band. And once that falls away, like it did for so many during the pandemic, you kind of have to figure out, okay, who am I if this whole music thing wasn't around? So did you kind of venture into those thoughts and then find an answer, kind of?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I like to think that I was pretty grounded before, but I think maybe even more. My family has always been that for me. It's like when I'm home, they don't care. They don't care. I'm like, hey, y'all want to come to this concert? They're like, what time is it? They don't care. So that has always been my ground, is my kids and my family. It's like when I go home, it's not PJ Morton, the artist and, celebrity or whatever. The musician is just dad, and that'll keep you down, keep you on the ground. So I've always been there and understood that.
So was this the way it kind of unfolded then, because you were stuck at home because of the pandemic? Is that why the lyrics were more introspective, or even more, you showed even more of yourself because you were in that environment where you could be kind of that person, or the more open person?
Yeah, well, I think part of it being locked down like that, I got to go deeper. I had a lot more space and time to really put my feelings into words. But I think part of it was just that I had gone through a lot right before the pandemic in my life, in my relationship. And so I was dealing with those feelings anyway. It's almost like the pandemic gave me time to think about it and really focus on it. And so, but I also felt like, man, we could literally, all this could just go away. What's the point of saying things, if they're not really giving a piece of yourself? And I think that forced me to go deeper. I'm like, I can't release songs that are just surface, at least not right now, because I feel like we were such in a non-surface place in the world. It's like the surface things don't matter. You know what I mean? Right now, like the core, the real people, your feelings, taking care of yourself, that's all that matters right now. So I just felt like I couldn't do something that was not below the surface. And that's what really caused me to go a little deeper and be a little more introspective, and vulnerable.
Okay. And then, as you mentioned, this is one of the themes on the album, which I found really interesting. There's a sense of allowing yourself to feel those feelings, because we don't always do. So yeah. Writing is, I have to quickly check which song specifically it was.
Maybe a little too heavy, maybe.
A little too heavy, that was the one.
Yeah.
Allowing yourself to kind of not push those feelings aside, but just sit in them for a while. How did you arrive at this philosophy, or this way of dealing with it?
Yeah, well, I think again that the lockdown again, it's like we weren't able to run away like we usually do. I tried to distract myself even then, and then my laptop crashed. It's like, so the distractions were falling away. And it had to kind of get down to your real feelings and like not be able to hide from them. And I think that, again, that was a big part of allowing yourself to feel it. And then that's where Be Like Water came from, when, a friend of mine sent me a podcast on happiness during the pandemic. And that really hit me, because it was like, no, don't fight these feelings. Go through them, flow through them. Just allow them to take you wherever they're supposed to take you. Let them teach you whatever lesson you're supposed to be taught. Don't fight it, or you might not even get the lesson. So all of these things were happening in real time for me in the pandemic, because I was figuring out, what am I going to have to pivot to? Like, what does it look like to be an artist? And if I can't get to anyone, what do I, and so all of that was happening. And I think that just happened through the music, because it was happening in real life for me.
Right. And now you mentioned Be Like Water, which I find a really interesting song, both musically and then as we talked about kind of thematically. But when you start on a song like that, when that initial idea pops into your head, where do you go? Do you go to the music? Do you write some notes down? Do you already think of, hey, maybe I should ask Stevie Wonder to be on this song?
Well, the asking Stevie that's after the song was done, like the concept was done. This actually started with a drum beat that confuses people, but it's just in 4. It's just straight. But it started with that, and I after a while, having the beat for a little while, which was my process this time. I took my time with every little piece, so it could be drums for a month, and then I'm like, okay, maybe I want to play something to it now, and that little movement came, and then I listened to that podcast. And I'm like, all right, it's talking about, all right. And it was a concept that hit me, and then after that, there was a space there, always a space there. And I was like, man, I could hear Nas on this so bad. Like, man, Nas would kill this. This is like right up his alley. And so I reached out to Nas. And he was working on another album, so it was taking them time to do it. And I just happened to be working with Stevie on his album. And I let him hear the song, and I was like, man, I know you would kill on this. He was like, you want me to do it? I'll do it. And just like that, man. So I recorded Stevie first, and then I sent it back to Nas and them, like, just letting y'all know Stevie Wonder's on it too now. And they were like, oh man, he always wanted to work with Stevie. And so they were definitely going to get it done. And then it became this beautiful thing, man. It's crazy.
Right. And crazy. It is crazy. And that's the funny thing, because you've had quite some success in your career, won a couple Grammys, but are you at the point then now where you can pretty much ask anyone to be on your music, or is that?
Who's left? It's like, yeah, I guess so. This blows my mind. Nas and Stevie Wonder on the same. I'm still not over this, man. It's like I can't believe it. It's like a dream come true. And you're talking about masters. You're talking about masters of their crafts, like the top of the top. It's like I feel like I could ask anyone, at this point. It's the only problem is I want to ask people who don't usually pop out, like I want a song with D'Angelo, of course, Kendrick Lamar would love Andre 3000, all people who kind of like are minding their own business right now. So we'll see. But I've already fulfilled my dreams, to be honest, man. Like I never shot bigger than Stevie Wonder singing a song with me. Like that was my dream, and wow, we're here. Yeah.
And the song has, maybe that's just at least my mind playing tricks on me, but it feels kind of like a modern Stevie Wonder song in a way. Was that intentional? For sure. Did you kind of mold it towards him?
No. So I think I have a natural inclination to go Stevie Wonder-esque. Okay. It's just really in my bones. It's like the first music I was listening to when I was becoming a songwriter. And I think it's just something that comes really natural to me. I used to try to fight it, because it was like, it's Stevie. But no, sometimes it just comes to me that way. But I specifically knew that this felt like him when I had that harpsichord there. Right. I was like, oh, this feels like Stevie-ish, but it feels like me, too, like the movement of it. But so when I did it, I sent it to him because I knew he would like it. I'm like, he's going to like this. This is like his vibe,
Right.
And,
right.
and so he did, but I didn't make it thinking of him. I actually wanted him to do another song, but that's just kind of me, he's in me and a lot of stuff that I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
And am I right in saying that you are very particular with the kind of the people you ask for certain tracks? Because I read somewhere that it's not just, I'm friendly with them, so let's make a song together. That you're very specific musically, I suppose.
Yeah, I just feel like the song is the most important thing. I mean, the song is the king in this instance, and so it's not really about relationship for me or like anything personal. It's like, does this serve the song? Like, even if you're my favorite person and I love your voice, but you're not right for this song, it's like, I want what's best for the song. It's selfless, to me. And so, yeah, I don't play around with that. It's like, yeah, it's got to make sense for the song for me.
Sure. Well, this is going to be a very unfair question, but I'm gonna ask it. I'm gonna ask it anyway.
Okay.
Which song of yours do you think you've gotten closest to a perfect song in your mind, where it kind of approximated what you envisioned closest?
Yeah. What's funny? Because of course I don't think I have any perfect songs.
Sure.
But Please Don't Walk Away on this new album is really something that one of them. I had that drum track for months and months. And when I started to play it, I have the same feeling when I started. I could tell magic was happening. Like I could literally feel, I'm like, something's happening. And it was so simple. So it's not even like I was doing something so crazy and complex. It was just magically all coming together. And every step of that song felt like magic. So the beat, I was just like, oh man, it's there with nothing on it. Just it was just something about the sounds, though. They were all working. And then that happened when I started playing it melody wise. I was like, whoa. And then when I started writing lyrics, I was like, whoa. And then when I started singing it, I'm like, whoa, and every time I listen to that song, I'm like, man, this thing moves me every single time. So if I had to pick that, maybe because it's fresh on my mind, but okay. I would say Please Don't Walk Away. Yeah, it has that effect on me.
There are a couple of songs, including that one, that kind of deal with romantic relationships and finding support in each other when times might be darkest. You mentioned earlier, and you don't have to get into this if you don't want to, but you mentioned earlier that you had some rough years going into the pandemic. So was it very cathartic because I imagine it's at least somewhat autobiographical. So was it cathartic to kind of get those thoughts out and to show them to the people involved?
Yeah, I think for me and thankfully, like, because I can't write about the stuff until I'm through the stuff. So thankfully, I successfully made it through all of this stuff, and we're happy and like, things worked out. But it was a real worry at one point, like which way we're going to go. Is this going to end? Like, is this really going to end? So those were some real questions and some real thoughts that were going on. And for me, it's always, it's always the way I release, and express. And so for me, yeah, it definitely has that feeling and was important for me to, after living it, get it out, like, I don't feel like how I felt on these songs when I was creating them. I don't feel those things anymore. Like, it's like, I can look at those things and smile like, man, look what art that all that made, look at this art that was made. But I don't feel that stuff when I'm playing it now or anything, but it definitely helped me release. Yeah.
How magical is it then that people can find something in that? I mean, that is the magic of music, but the fact that people can hear that song, something you went through years ago, and they can find apply it to their own lives and find something in it.
Have you ever magic? Yeah, it's so crazy. Yeah.
Have you ever delved into that kind of how music affects the audience, how you affect your audience?
Yeah, I mean, I try not to get too deep into it because I don't want to overthink it,
Right.
I think what works best is me being honest, me even making it selfishly, even making my music for me. Like, I'm making this because this is what I like. even that being able to touch others and like affect others in different ways is like, that's the magic. It's like, wow, you got that from my personal story, but it really is what brings us all together, because it shows that, man, we're a lot more alike than different,
Sure.
all of us, you know, and connect to the same things because we're all connected.
Final question then. The album is called Watch the Sun, and I wrote down, as sure as the sun sets, it rises again, so will you. That line, I think it's the opening line, but I'm not sure. But that
That's right.
line, how important was that kind of as an overall thought on this album?
That's it, man. I mean, that was it. That's what made Watch the Sun as a title feel so perfect. I didn't even realize it when I wrote Watch the Sun, the song first. But then it shot right at me when I was thinking like, yeah, this doesn't matter if it's something you're just going through personally in life with yourself, internally, whatever, with your family, or if you're in a relationship and going through this stuff. Watch the Sun just covered all of that. Darkness in general, you know, and us just taking note from nature and understanding God is in nature. And it's like, man, I'm watching this sun do this every day. Nobody's telling it to do it. It's just doing it. If I just pay attention to that, man, I can get out of this feeling I feel in this relationship. I can get out of this depression that I'm in, you know, on my own. I can get out of this job that maybe I don't want to be in. You know, if I watch the sun, I can get out of all types of situations. So it just seemed to cover the whole thing and just felt perfect, you know.
DJ, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me.
My pleasure.